So how do you know if the race you've been running has real meaning or significance? And what do you do if you finally catch or reach that thing that you've been chasing the most and it turns around, slaps you hard in the face, or gives you a swift kick in the behind? You might start wondering, was this really worth it? Did price paid justify end result? A story of hitting rock bottom, redemption, in front of the Royal Ancient, the spiritual home of golf for more than 700 years, here on the Reinvention Chronicles. Welcome to St Andrews, Scotland, the birthplace of golf. This is hallowed and sacred ground for millions all over the world who willingly fork over considerable sums of money just to have a go on the 18 holes they call the Old Course. For the golfer, this is Mecca, Bethlehem, and the Vatican all rolled up into one. If mountaineers yearn to climb Everest, well, golfers covet tee times at St Andrews. And these are the links that forever connect the legends of the game, from old Tom Morris in the 19th century all the way to Sam Snead, Bobby Jones, Peter Thompson, the big three, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, and then the stars of the modern age, Seve Ballesteros, Greg Norman, Tiger Woods, and the 2015 Open winner, Zach Johnson. Reminders at every turn that you're following in legendary footsteps. Now that's hard enough for anyone to live up to, let alone for someone who struggles to break 100, and then harder still if you happen to be the son of a former pro golfer who was born 7 minutes from the first tee here in St Andrews. But you know, St Andrews has always appealed to the dreamer within us, and for the better part of about 30 years I've been on a bit of a quest to come back here and I guess honor the father I deeply love and admire, who played here in the 40s and 50s as a Scottish schoolboy before departing for Canada, and his first gig in the golfing business at a club in Toronto. I mean, there's no need to bore anyone with the gory hole-by-hole details, but the dream of actually playing the Old Course quickly became a nightmare, starting with that very first missed drive on tee number 1 in front of the starter in the gallery. I failed to par even one hole, and worse, I think there was only one really half-decent drive all day. And this would have been the ultimate Duffer's debacle, and more than a few times felt absolutely embarrassed that my playing partners from Montreal, as it turns out, had to suffer through my golfing meltdown. The hacking and the slashing that went on was just right out of a horror film for a torturous 4.5 hours. And to make this Black Friday at St Andrews even worse than being trapped in the hell bunker here on 14, I get locked out of the B&B I'm staying at. It's raining, and I'm spending over an hour outside trying to get back in, feeling absolutely lower than low that in somehow I just haven't done what I wanted to do, because whether we care to admit it or not, there's still in some of us a 7-year-old boy who just wants to make his dad proud and can play at least a halfway respectable round of golf. I guess in that respect, golf is a lot like life, especially when you've had one of those days, weeks, months where no matter how hard you've tried, nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, has worked out. So as painful as it is to share, especially for someone who's been known to carry way too much pride and ego in his golf bag for his own good, there are at least 128 lessons to be learned here at the altar of humility at the foot of Mount St. Humble. And today I want to share 3 of those lessons that may be relevant to situations or circumstances that you encounter somewhere down the road. So from the famous road hole bunker on 17, here's the first thing to consider. Don't let symbolic events shape you. We all have a tendency to put way too much pressure on the symbolic nature of a prize or an end result. You'd be hard-pressed to find any place on planet Earth with more symbolism than there is here at St. Andrews, and somehow we can easily be fooled into thinking that if we don't achieve what we expect for ourselves or what others expect of us, somehow we're nothing more than worthless frauds. And I mean, it would be so easy for anyone to see that if they had this horrendous round of golf at St. Andrews, then the course could be this vivid reminder of one's shortcomings or failures. And I mean, we also have, let's not forget, the ability and capacity to redefine those symbols. So rather than seeing the old course as a symbol for failure, or maybe something in your life that is you see as symbolic of a massive catastrophe or cataclysmic occurrence. Well, I mean, let's face it, you can turn it around. You can see there is an opportunity to turn it into something else. Number 2 comes from nearby iconic Swilcan Bridge here in the 18th hole, and it's rewrite your own history. I mean, facts are facts, and numbers on a golf scorecard don't lie, or in business for that matter, but that doesn't mean we can't always see our setbacks in a different light. It's always a choice to see any failure as a temporary condition, not a permanent one. Single setbacks are never final defeats, and I think real failure lies not with those who have blundered, but those who have failed to cash in on the experience. I mean, Thomas Edison spoke of finding 10,000 ways that didn't work. Michael Jordan and Wayne Gretzky freely admit to missing many shots, but that allowed them the opportunity to score. There is no failure, except in no longer trying, which, at least for me, is why the old course here at St. Andrews is going to come to represent something else altogether. A symbol of what it takes to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, get back in the tee box, and give it another go. Which brings us to number 3, which is to say there's great power in perspective. I mean, let's face it, let's get real about this. Having a horrible day on the old course here at St. Andrews is far from the worst thing that's ever going to happen. There's war, there's cancer, there's poverty, there's homelessness, there's companies shutting down, there's families that are splitting up. So when you step back and take a look at yourself and how ridiculous you can be in these types of situations, you can see very clearly that any and all wounds to one's sense of pride, honor, self-esteem are really self-inflicted, self-imposed. It's quite laughable, actually, when you stop to think about it, especially since the game of golf itself, if you take golf too seriously, well, just remember, the game itself was invented by a group of people, the Scots, who still think music comes from bagpipes. And hey, when it gets right down to it, when is it ever a bad thing to climb down from the twin peaks of arrogance or achievement and walk the fairways of humility? I mean, for more than 700 years, the Scots have taught us that this game, it's not about mastering the course or even mastering your opponent. It's really a course in mastering yourself and how you respond to situations and circumstances that are bound to occur. Some insights for you to consider here from the home of golf as you recreate and reimaginate the business, the career, and who knows, maybe the golf game that you deserve.